So let's get right into the dig agency final expense telesale script. Here is the opener that we start when the client says, hello. Hey, Jane, this is David with the dig agency calling you back with the final expense price quote you requested on Facebook. I see your zip code is 37343. Is that correct? Yes. Is this for yourself or a loved one? Me. How long you been looking? Okay. So this is, let me break this down and why we do it this way. So first of all, we don't, some questions people ask is, why don't we say Mrs. Jones or Mary Jones? Why not first and last name? I feel like there's, and you can do this. I think there may be some regional differences in kind of how to approach it. We call in states across this great nation in the South, Midwest, West Coast. It works just to address somebody by their first name. Okay. The other thing too is that we say with the final expense price quote. Now, why do we do that? Because this goes back to that overarching original point we made earlier. Your clients don't have all day long to listen to you. They don't want to listen to you. And you have to get to the point. And when you talk about a final expense price quote, it's getting to the point fairly quickly. Now, you'll see we don't just give them a price the next sentence, but we're triggering something in their mind that we're giving them the price quote they requested. We're giving them something of substance that they want. And so the better that we can make that connection up front, the better they're going to listen to us, okay? So we like, and you'll see this a lot, there's a directness in our approach and how we get people on the phone, and I should say keep them on the phone. We ask them to confirm, I see your zip code was X. Is that correct? This is just an easy way to get them to say yes, okay? If you guys have been in sales before, you've heard of the yes train, and it's the idea that you start getting a little yeses early on, a little engagement early on to get them to listen to you and more engaged with you, okay? So that's an easy question we can get a yes to, which helps us open the door to continuing the conversation. Okay. And the same thing, is this yourself or a loved one? Again, getting to the point, they're addressing concerns of what it is they're interested in, et cetera. How long you've been looking. Again, these are just some questions we're engaging to get into a conversation. Another thing, again, let me go over some mistakes here. And again, if you guys have questions, throw them in the chat. I'll keep reminding you. I want to talk about some mistakes that agents make all the time. And look, the dig agency, we have a readout for the vast majority of sales calls that are made that will read the call and then benchmark, and this is all automations and AI at work, and we'll benchmark that call to the script and then provide some context to the agent, what they did right and what they could improve. And I'll tell you the number one mistake here, ladies and gentlemen, is that agents don't follow it. They just don't follow the script. You know, it's like, that's the easiest thing to fix. Just do what is said there, number one, because it works. So then that will go throughout the entirety of the script. If you just follow the script is the biggest thing. So many agents don't follow the script. And it's a reason it's there, because it works. Number two, they get off script. So they may start with the script and then they'll throw out these objectors, which these are really important. We're going to cover these in a minute down here and what these are and how these work. Again, very kind of new strategies here that are just excellent, but they don't actually follow and do the rebuttals properly, or even the suggested rebuttals. And they just get off script, screw up, and they're done. Some other things people do is they pause at the wrong spots, okay? So for example, I hear this a lot in a lot of scripts. I just put out a video, I just did the video, it'll come out in June. But some people will say things like, hey, David, this is David with the dig agency calling you back about the final expense price quote you request on Facebook. Pause. And they pause long, and the person thinks it's their turn to start talking. What you want to be very careful of is allowing the client to take control in moments where we don't want them to talk, okay? There's a reason why we don't ask them a question until it's down here. The question we want to ask them is a confirmation question that we know 99% of the time we're going to get a yes to. It's important to get that yes at this point in the presentation to engage them so they admit that they did this, and then to hopefully gain a little bit more time to continue having a conversation. Whereas if you pause here, they may start saying a bunch of crap, take control and say they didn't do it, they're not interested, they just bought life insurance, blah, 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 endless excuses. Does that make sense, everybody? So in short, I can't stress enough to you, not only just read the script the way it's supposed to, make sure you're not pausing in spaces where it's not the right maneuver. You don't want to let and you'll hear this in a moment when we listen to the audios. Pause and do the waits where they are suggested. So a couple of questions popped up. Let me address them here if there's anything specific. Okay, Duke says, does an assumptive price quote not squelch prospect listening for the moment? No, so our strategy for years has been to say, we're getting you the information to request on our final expense program, right? Like that's what we used to teach for years. And that works at the door selling final expense. It might even work to some extent. It did work for sure, selling over setting an appointment to sell in person, but setting the appointment over the phone to see them in person. But what we found is that just people are just impatient. And what most people want is a quote. And it actually ends up doing the opposite of what you're suggesting. It satisfies kind of their thing because they're expecting a whole song and dance. People are wise to the sales stuff now. Okay. And by giving them or saying you're going to give them what they want, they're going to be in tune with you faster. That's what we found. And it reduces some of that upfront anxiety. Not always, as we'll get into, but I think it does help more than hurt. Granite says, is it common to get people upset because they were triple dialed? Ooh, good question. How would you diffuse that? So here's another thing. This is a little bit tangential, but I don't know if I'm going to cover this, but I will now. So what we used to teach is the concept of triple dial. We don't anymore because it doesn't work. Let me explain what triple dialing is, and then I'll tell you what we do instead now. So triple dial is where you dial the number up to 3 times sequentially without much delay. So if they call and it goes to voicemail, you wait a couple of seconds after you hang up and then you dial them again. And then by the 3rd time, a lot of those people who are just staring at their phone that would otherwise ignore it are kind of going to be curious enough to answer it. Well, here's what happens in reality when you triple dial. So what the carriers, the cell phone carriers have done is that they track every call that comes through their provider because people are so sick and tired of the constant volume of calls and the belief that they're scams. Very few people, if you think about the nature of the phone, I mean, before it was a device to look at funny cat videos on social media, it was back in my day, we used to call people on this thing, and talk to them. And the experience of talking with people sucks because most of the calls now are from solicitors. Okay. And so what the carriers, the cell phone carriers do is that they can track where the calls are originating from by their cell phone number. And depending on their algorithm and how they measure those calls, if they see a large volume coming through, a repetition of volume over a short period of time, they label that call as telemarketer likely or spam likely. Okay. And then what happens is that those numbers don't ever even get registered by the user. If you can go in your phone, and I think you can filter out based off of the designation the carrier gives, or it will just display spam likely or telemarketer likely. And this precipitously reduces the connection rate, the amount of time, the rate at which your phone calls are picked up by a live human being. And so where triple dialing worked 5 years ago, it absolutely doesn't now, because inadvertently your number will be labeled spam or telemarketer likely. And then you'll just all of a sudden at some point in the near future not have anybody pick up at the same rate. And you'll wonder these leads suck. No, it's because everybody sees spam likely. The solution, this is kind of jumping ahead, has to deal with the dialer that you use. And don't triple dial, but use a dialer that gives you multiple phone numbers to rotate through. That also cleans those numbers and makes sure that they are they're cleaned and not labeled as spam likely. So this is a process that can be done in the background with technology and that you don't need to do. That's really the best solution. And a lot of people who complain about their ability to get people to pick up the phone, it's because they do this type of old school, stuff that we were doing 3 years ago at work, but it doesn't now. And it's usually both, don't have a proper dialer that will manage the numbers in an efficient method. Okay. And if you want me to talk about that, I'll mention it. We use Convoso at the big agency. The problem with Convoso is that it is a call center solution. You need 20 seats to use it. And what we've done is basically white labeled it. It's called Dig Dialer, digdialer.com. You don't have to be a Dig agency agent to use it. If you join us, it's free. But digdialer.com is Convoso, but you can buy 1 seat. So you don't have to buy 20 seats and spend 10 grand a month plus like I do. And you'll get all of the benefits that we have as far as the ability to keep your numbers clean. And our connection rates when we switched to Convoso were just amazingly good. And it's funny, our agents went from working 40 hours a week to get their numbers to working like 25 hours a week of dial time because the dialer is so efficient at making the connections and not wasting time listening to voicemails, or it's really good at just keeping off the telemarketer spam likely list. It's such a powerful tool. It is a premium tool for us. It's $425 a month. You can cancel anytime. But to me, the only other comparable choice would be Kixie. That is a standalone dialer. You can buy that as a individual agent, and we used to use that. I liked it. It's some bugs here and there, but that's like a good dialer versus what we do. It's a great dialer, it really is. Brian says, "Hey Dave, the new Dig agent here. Hey, often finding folks don't know what final expense quote actually is and say, what is it? In the training video, some of the successful agents seem to add this is for final expense life insurance." Yeah, it's going to depend on the nature of the leads. My suggestion is to read the script. So one of the things that we do is based off of where the lead comes from and the ads that we use, we do change this final expense price code sometimes because we use that in the ad to some extent. But some of these other ads may say something else. What I would suggest is follow the script, get with your trainer to get more specificity. But sometimes, as you'll see here in a minute, we'll kind of go over this. And then, but yeah, you could say something like that to kind of further clarify. Now, let's shift gears here and talk about what happens when they're not an easy person that we all love and they're easygoing and they just do what you want. Because guess what? People are going to object. They're busy. They've got other things going on. They know they're getting a sales call. They're going to push back and say all sorts of things. Okay. And you need to be ready to overcome those objections. So let's talk about the potential for objections. So first of all, if they, that's the long man. Okay. If they say nothing, then we just go down to the initial questions here. Like if they're just easy, we get into some basic questions here. We'll get into that in a second. But likely you're going to experience some sort of objections. Okay. So there's really 2 types of objections that go on. You'll be doing your script and they're like, I didn't do this. I never did this. I'm not interested. I've already, like, the video or the audio I played, this lady here, I think y'all heard that, right? That is somebody who is interjecting. They're trying to shut you down and they're trying to just hang the phone up on you. Okay. So this is the rushed objector. And we'll go into a little bit more about how to handle that in a minute. Then there's the people who listen to you and they say things like, I don't have life insurance, or I already got life insurance. I didn't do this. And it's any other objection. So for us, we try to simplify the rebuttal strategy by only having 2 that you've got to deal with. Okay. And it's going to handle, 90, 95% of what's out there. So let's cover the first one. And in all fairness, we took this from Johnny Nitafan, who has a YouTube channel. He's very good at what he does. And the concept is simple. When somebody is objecting, you have to interrupt them. Okay. They are interrupting you. And if you don't take back control and interrupt them in the process, they're just going to hang up on you. Okay. This isn't a natural thing to do for most of us. I know it comes highly unnatural to me, but you have to train yourself to identify when they're interrupting, they're rushing you off the phone, and then you have to literally interrupt them midstream and then say the following objection rebuttal. And we'll go over this. So like if Mildred's saying, I've already got all the life insurance, I'm like, great, that's exactly why I'm calling. Stay on the line. I literally just saved the guy $43 a month and another $23 a month. Another was a 2-year wait that I just put into a first day coverage. Let me do that for you as well. It's just a few minutes. Now, are you a smoker or are you a non-smoker? So what did we just do there? We took back control. No, it's not in some nice way, but your clients will hang up. Again, this was such a critical objection rebuttal that we inserted into our script. It made a huge difference in getting more conversions. And I can't stress to you, you've got to get good at interrupting. Okay. They're not expecting it. Okay. So a couple of things here just to clarify, because I know you guys are going to be asking me. Are you asking me to lie, Dave? What if I didn't save a guy 43 a month or another 20? Like, you can change those. Like, change those to a number that you've done before. You could even say, you know, hey, one person, there's somebody I know. Well, that wouldn't make sense either. I'm trying to think, if you know somebody like in your agency, you could say, we just help somebody save. Like if they have a story, you could say, well, we just help someone save X amount of dollars, right? So I'm trying to make it to where you can make it like truthful and not a lie. We don't want to lie. Okay. You start off with a lie. It's not good. It just gets worse, right? So make this work for you. So the more important point is not the dollar amounts or even if you don't have the 2-year wait, you don't have to worry about that. You will eventually. The more important thing is to interrupt them and getting comfortable, raising your voice and interrupting them. Hey, that's great. That's exactly why I'm calling. Stay on the line. Like that's why we underline and, you know, caps this, because you want to talk over them so that you can get control. All right. And what we have found is this is really good at keeping people on the line. Again, it's what I went back to earlier. Our clients they have no attention spans. They don't want to listen to another sales pitch. They're sick and tired of the calls that come in constantly. They're well trained in shutting people down. And so you have to be very prepared to interrupt them to take control. Okay. Very good. Any questions? Feel free to throw them out. All right. So, here's one. Okay. Just say, I help people like you every day. Save money if you don't have an example. Yeah. It's good to be more specific when you can. Okay. If you can say, hey, I saved somebody $43 a month, or hey, stay on the line, don't hang up. I literally had somebody around your age that said the same thing, and they had a 2-year wait and didn't even know it. I got them first day full coverage, if that's true, of course. But you see what I'm saying? Great, stay on the line, don't hang up. Then sell them and then ask a question. Okay. Standard interruption. Sure. Okay. Now, the other objection rebuttal is if they just say like, hey, they let you say your whole thing. They don't interrupt. They don't sound rushed. And you're just like, yeah, it doesn't make sense for me, or I'm not interested. Then you say the following. Hey, yeah, no problem. Just need a few minutes to get you the pricing you wanted, and what you do with it's totally up to you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. Just want you to get a quote. So how long have you been looking? Okay. So the point behind this is standard issue. We've used this rebuttal for years. We just acknowledge them. Hey, it's no problem. You're not interested. Just need a few minutes to get you the pricing you wanted. What you do with it's totally up to you. The idea is to dismantle any resistance that they have, that we're just doing our job. What they do with it's up to you. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. Just want to get you a quote, because they will sell themselves. And I really do think that about the sales pitch. Like, this stuff sells itself, especially if you follow the script. And it's not so much you selling it as you are explaining it in the right way and connecting what they want with what you got. It sells itself. Okay. And then you ask a question. Again, you cannot just say this, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to try to sell anything. Just want to get your quote. You have to end with the question here. So how long have you been looking? Why are questions important, class? Why is it so important? You'll notice it here. I can't highlight it because it's an image. Why is a question so important? And you saw it up here too. What do questions do? Control, yes. To engage, but more importantly, to control. Look, I'm not a control freak. I'm not a micromanager by default. I'm very easygoing. Well, my wife wouldn't say that, but I would. I'm easygoing with people for the most part, whatever. But the problem is when you deal in the performance-based activity like sales, there is an A and a B, an alpha and omega to the sales pitch. And there's a process and a sequence that must be done in order to get to the end point, which is you selling them. If you get out of that order, or worse, you allow the client to determine the order in which they'll receive the information, you're not giving the best job that you can. And the only way to do the best job you can in the field of persuasion is to control things, okay? Now, I'm not saying I'm going to control that person to sign regardless of what, right? But to control how the presentation and the conversation goes. And the way that you do it is asking questions. Questions are the way that you can control. Just as a rule of thumb, if anybody ever objects to you, they say something, you just answer it and ask a question back. Like that is the standard way to maintain control, not just in sales, but just in life. Okay. Ask the guy asking or gal asking questions controls the conversation. Okay. That's why we do this, because then when the client's answering questions for us, then we're the ones leading the thing. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah. Whoever controls the questions controls the conversation. Right. And there are some side benefits too, like what Duke said, listening, engagement, right? Those are definitely benefits, but controlling where you want things to go is really important in sales. You can't just let it off to a whim, right? Now, once we've dealt with this and we've asked them these questions, excuse me here, what we'll do if they object, if they were rushed on the phone, we presume if we had to interrupt them and we use this objection rebuttal, that their time on the phone is very short. So we're going to just jump to the underwriting section. And I'm going to go that route first, and we'll come back and do this. So this is where we skip the initial questions here and go right down here to objection, or the underwriting section. So again, think if they're just like trying to rush us on the phone and we rebuttal them, it's like 60 seconds in. And then we're saying, okay, so let's get you the price quote here real quick and see if we can get you that plan with our negotiation service and try to save your family up to 40% off the funeral price as well. It's all based on age and health. So what's your date of birth so I can verify your age? Oh, by the way, we're on a recorded line. Remember, price quote is based on age and health. So do you have any mild or major health concerns of any kind? Okay. So we start kind of going broadly with the health questions here, letting them fill it in. Again, what we found is with a person who's pushing, and even those who aren't, if you get into a long litany of questions on the front end, it drags the thing down and people lose interest. So we're asking questions in a more broad-based way for the time being until we get a little bit more specific and kind of get our hooks in, for lack of a better term, to get their trust. Okay. So rewinding here a little bit, you may be wondering, okay, what is this negotiation service and what are we talking about here? So one of the things that we do, and we'll talk about carriers and lineups and all that eventually, but what we found is that, and again, it's funny because I have pushed back against this for years. We just used to sell competitively priced life insurance, which is fine, or final expense life insurance. But what we found is that using carriers that have essentially what's called a funeral concierge service, which helps shop the funeral prices to get them a better deal, actually increases persistency, the quality of business that stays on the books, despite the price point of the policy being higher than some of the other options out there. We work with American Amicable. That's our primary carrier. And doing some analysis on persistency, we actually have a better amount of business stay on the books with their, so they got two different final expense products. You have the Platinum Choice or Platinum Solutions, I think, and then the Senior Choice. I think that's the one it is. The Platinum has this funeral concierge program. The Senior Choice doesn't. Okay. And what we found is that the Senior Choice, even though it's less expensive than Platinum, Platinum actually has better persistency, meaning more of the higher priced product actually stays on the books, which 3 years ago never would have imagined it would be the case. But then if I sit back and, you can, as much as you can, and I understand why, you can badmouth the pricing on Lincoln Heritage or Senior Life, there must be some reason or rationale behind the funeral concierge program working. And so my point is this. We found for us that this thing increases the quality of business. So why wouldn't we use it? So for us, adding this sizzle to the steak is really important. And so that's why we've implemented it as a go-to, as much as possible, strategy in our sales presentation. We don't always end up writing that product that has that, but we certainly want to talk about it in our script. Okay. Questions here. People think the best by talking and they believe themselves above everyone else. Yeah, absolutely. Does persistency in our on our system fall only to dig? Does an agent have a role in persistency? Absolutely. To briefly mention that, absolutely. So we at the time were talking about, well, we used to have, and we currently still do, have a persistency, or I should say, retention management system. And we have a person who's staffed in that position. She calls everybody who's lapsed in our free lead program to get them back on the books or to rewrite them if they can't catch it up. But what happens a lot of times, people don't pick up the phone for, okay? But who they do pick up the phone for and listen to are the actual agents that wrote them. So whereas what we originally did was say to agents, don't worry about persistency, we'll take care of it for you, or the retention of the policy. What we've realized is that the agents have to play an active role in helping, because they're going to get a charge back if they don't anyway. So they should be incentivized. But the agents or the clients are much more likely to listen to the agent if they call back to save the deal than say a customer service person. So I would say don't totally divulge the responsibility or trade off or outsource the responsibility of retention to somebody else. Involve yourself in the process. And it's true. I mean, I even think as myself as an agent, I had somebody that would call back and check on people, but there were times I just had to roll up on people's houses and say, hey, you missed a payment. Let's rewrite this and get this going again. So, and that was the only way I would have ever connected with them, was me actually contacting them. All right. So does the agent take action? In what way? You just call them back. Just get them back on the phone. You talk to them, say, hey, I wrote your policy. I see you missed a payment. Well, what's going on? How can I help you? Half the time, missed payments occur because of ignorance. The client's not acting nefariously. They just didn't realize that the money wasn't there. And they didn't mean to, but they would have never known if nobody ever told them. Does that make sense? We also like to initiate text messages that go out to the client to confirm that their payment's coming out and ask them if they have any questions. We'll do follow-up text messages from time to time as well. We're about to implement a mailer, a physical mailer that goes out once the deal is listed as closed in our CRM system. A piece of mail goes out, and the idea is it gets there within the next couple of days to have something physical from the dig agency with the agent's information and what they applied for and that we submitted for, and a way to reach us if they have questions. All of the call centers out there do that. We're just getting around to it finally. So I suspect it will help lift rates that much more. Okay. Would you skip the funeral concierge service pitched on rushed objectors? I don't know if I don't think that we do that. I think we keep it in. Again, it's bait to get them interested, right? It's kind of like saving for up to 40%. Sounds interesting. And then the advertising that I've seen leverages the funeral concierge service to reason respond. You may qualify for 10,000 coverage. Yeah, for sure. Okay, great. Let's keep going here. So now we're rolling back a little bit. What with FE, can a client be on an auto pay? AI? Absolutely. Yeah, you want your client set up on recurring. You won't really even have a choice anymore. There's no option to mail them a check. In most cases, the only thing you can do is get them on a recurring bank draft or like card payment. Okay. So yeah, now I will add to that, you want to, as much as possible, take the money up front. If you want better quality of business, get that money up front, guys. And we'll go into more detail in the quality of business section, but that's really important. Okay. Is Social Security easy to accomplish? Let me explain what you mean there a little bit more. Okay. So if the objector is not rushed and you overcome this, then you just go down to initial questions. So these are a little bit of some why questions to just kind of generate some interest. We ask this because it doesn't feel like they're trying to throw us off the phone. We skip this if they're objecting and rushing us, because we find we're losing people. They lose patience with all the questions. So we get right to the meat by getting them the quotes and doing a little underwriting. So if they're not rushing us off the phone, we ask them, so do you have a policy already? And if so, are you looking to add more coverage or find something better? How long have you been looking? If we haven't already asked that. Have you heard about funeral plans to negotiate your family to get the cost of funeral down up to 40%? And that's where we talk about Everest. That's the product associated with the platinum solution with American Amicable. And if they haven't mentioned they don't have a policy, do you currently have anything in place as far as coverage goes? Okay. So this is just some fact finding to figure out, do they have coverage? What do they like about it? What do they not like about it? Do they already have policy? Is it a 2-year wait? You know, these kind of things. Are they interested in saving money potentially with a funeral concierge program? Just as kind of an attempt to build some value. Again, we want to do this if we're not feeling like we're getting thrown off the phone. Okay. And then from here, again, if they're not a rushed objector, we go down to if they have a policy, we follow up and say, okay, so we're looking for some additional coverage to see if you qualify for a lower monthly payment or both. Based on that answer, say perfect. Well, you're definitely in the right place. Just last week, I had a client saying the same exact thing and was able to save them $43 a month. Again, figure out something that you have done, change the numbers to represent reality and truth. Okay. Don't tell them something that's not true. So let's cut to the chase, get this done for you. Again, you see these words like, let's get to the point, let's cut to the chase. People like it when they feel like you're not jerking around. Like you're getting to the point, you're trying to help them out. You're trying to cut to the chase, okay? That works really well now over the phone. We used to, for example, notice we haven't done any rapport building. How's your day going? How's the weather treating you? You know, what do you do for a living? We don't ask those questions. People just hang up on you, okay? They don't want to hear it. They want to know, they want to show me the meat, right? Where's the meat? Where's the beef, right? And then the rapport comes as you're doing this through the fact of how you're handling this so much to the point, okay? So let's cut to the chase, get this done for you. And by the way, was your policy a 2-year wait to kick in? And was there accidental coverage with that? Does a plan currently have to negotiate the funeral price down to save your family up to 40%? So we're asking this because if they have a policy, that we're asking them questions that maybe get them concerned, like, is it a 2-year wait? Maybe it is, and they don't like it. Well, there's an opportunity if we can qualify them for better coverage to replace the existing one. And then sometimes some of these people will sell double indemnity. So they'll sell a policy that's a 2-year wait, that's a $10,000 face amount, but they'll sell it with double indemnity and say, hey, I'm going to get you a $20,000 plan today for the low cost of $40. You know, it doesn't make sense until you realize it's really a $10,000 plan that makes them wait 2 years in some cases. Sometimes it's a level plan, but it sounds better when you say it's a $20,000 plan that pays half out when you die of natural causes than it does saying it's a $10,000 plan. You know what I'm saying? So, and a lot of people don't even know that. They don't even say, they just say it's a $20,000 plan. So by asking this stuff, you get them thinking, get them concerned, and that kind of helps you continue to engage. Okay. Now, if they don't have a policy, then this is kind of where we ask some of these old-fashioned kind of like questions to get them concerned. And in a tone, we ask them, wow, they say they don't have a policy. Well, is there any specific reason why you haven't got something in place? And we want them to feel like bad. And we're doing this not to manipulate them, but to help them realize that tomorrow may never come. The thing I like to say is we want our clients to visualize the hearse backed up against their front porch, right? And we want them to see that death could occur. And the thing in art that makes final expense nice is that most of our clients have had someone die. That's not the nice thing, but the experience in terms of helping us sell is they've lost a loved one, certainly their parents, sometimes their spouse, maybe even friends at this point in their life. So nobody needs to tell them about how expensive a funeral can be and that death happens to everybody. But it's kind of the leverage we have. So they usually will go back into a story about having this experience. And this is all money for us and getting them to buy into what we do. And then make sure you engage in whatever conversation. This is where they'll start talking about their experience. Take notes. This is leverage for the future. Okay. So at this point, we've overcome that initial part of the phone call, whether they had an objection and it was rushed or not, or they were just cool. And we asked them some questions to kind of determine if they got a policy or not. And then we built into some fact-finding questions about their current coverage or some emotional leverage as to why they should, what their experience has been and why they haven't had one yet. Okay, so we're setting the tone of kind of controlling this call. We're probably no more than 3 minutes in, guys. And you'll hear this as we listen to the audios. We've gone into, at some point now, the underwriting section where we're gathering some basics about their health. All right. Questions. Most carriers will draft on the day that Social Security benefits arrive. A lot of them will. The ones you want to write do. American Amicable does. SICA does now. Trinity Family Benefit does. I don't think Mutual of Omaha does, but there are plenty of others that do. And that's, again, we'll get into that more later, but that's absolutely, to me, non-negotiable. You should absolutely write carriers that just do Social Security deposit billing. Does DIG have a play-in setup? Let me know what you mean by that. How deep would you engage in that conversation? Yeah, Grant, that's a great question. I like to talk and I like to listen, but man, it probably is easier to do it to that extent in person. But over the phone, you can sense, if you're really paying attention, that people will like to engage and talk, but they get to a point where they're just over it and they're tired and exhausted. So I would say engage just enough. Don't over engage. And if you're a listener by default, like I am, you'll over engage. Like it may be just a few exchanges over the course of 30 to 60 seconds is all you need. You don't need a lot of engagement. In some ways, probably people engage too much, kind of surprising. But the nature is they'll get tired of the engagement if you're not on the ball and getting to the point. So after we've gotten through the underwriting section, we actually do our introduction here. The introduction tells us who we are, why we're calling, and why they should care. Okay, it helps set the expectations of what's to come and why they should trust us. Okay, script goes like this. By the way, if you missed it, my name is David Duford with the DIG Agency. Obviously, I'm a licensed broker here in Tennessee. I shop all the 30 plus major insurance companies and get you qualified for the best plan with the highest possible value. Of course, it needs to be completely within your budget. That sound good to you? Okay. So at this point, this just sets the tone. They know who we are, where we're from, that I'm a licensed agent in their state, and I shop the major insurance companies, and then I get them qualified for the best plan with the best possible value. This is our unique selling proposition. This is what sets us aside. Again, you don't have 30 companies. Don't say 30 companies. I shop major insurance companies for the best plan, so you can modify that accordingly. The rest of it is probably more important, and that's how that works. All right. Yeah. It depends. It's 30. I mean, it depends on the agent, or I should say think of it as what your setup is, Duke, not so much mine. And this thing doesn't really matter all that much. It's just like I shop the major companies. That would be sufficient. Okay. If up here, if they mention in the underwriting section, again, we have a decision tree matrix here. In the underwriting section, if they didn't mention any major health questions, we go to this direction. If they did, we go to the payment questions. And we'll talk about that in a minute because we actually get into some descriptive underwriting here to try to segment them out. Are they level coverage or GI? We'll talk about that in a moment. But if there's no health concerns, we just get their height and weight, any prescriptions, major or minor, have them do it from memory. If you start asking, you can ask them to grab it, but if they're not at home, then it's going to give them an out to get off the phone. So this is why we say do it from memory. Don't worry about grabbing them because we don't want to give them an excuse to get off the phone. I'd really like to give you the accurate things. Let me let you go and no, you'll never hear from me. Okay, we'll just go into the witness protection program. So get the major and minor prescriptions, and then you go to the payment question, okay? So the payment question is as follows. So this gives you just enough information. If they don't have any major health issues and you get the prescriptions, you can do your underwriting with that information, okay? If they have health concerns, and I've listed some of them, you'll see in a minute kind of how we handled it, okay? Now, payment question. Put in the toolkits before picking a carrier. Toolkits is insurancetoolkits.com. In fact, I'll show it to you guys here. If you go here, this is not my company, but it's the standard in the quoting business. If you don't already have one, get a free trial, put in DeFord or DeFord 15 at checkout. That'll give you a 10% discount or something. It's like $35 a month. It will underwrite and price your coverage for you. Okay. Final expenses, its main tool. It's very good. And you can put in all the drugs that they give you. They've been around a long time. Excellent service. Cancel anytime. Has all the major carriers too, already pre-built. You can take out the carriers you don't use too if you want to. So it's pretty sweet. Okay. Okay, back to the script. So some carriers take certain payment methods, others do not. Do you have a valid U.S. bank account? And in the parentheses here, wait, if no, what type of payment card? If not viable payment, hang up, save time, and hashtag GFM. That's go find Mildred, go find a real client. If there's no health issues, skip health questions and then go to shopping price range. Again, if they're in other words, if they're healthy, don't do this section and all this stuff. It'll make sense in a minute when we go through it. But what we're asking here, and this is really important, you can have somebody who wants a policy but doesn't have a valid form of payment, right? And what that means is that you can have somebody who can spend $100 a month, but if they don't have a bank account and they say they don't have a card, you can't collect the money because nobody sends a bill every month. And therefore, what ends up happening is that you're not going to sell that person. They're unqualified. So you would want to hang up on this client. They're just not qualified. Okay. So this is why we're asking, do they have a valid U.S. bank account? And it saves you time. And in this world of selling, you only want to talk to qualified prospects. So just hang up if they don't have a bank account or some valid form of payment. Okay. Yeah, Direct Express card, that is a form of payment that if the carrier in mind you're thinking takes it, you could definitely use it. Some companies don't take Direct Express. Some agencies don't want Direct Express because it is not good quality business. So continuing here. If they have health issues, what we want to do here is show concern, ask questions about their experience with the conditions. How are they feeling? When did it start? You got to show concern or you're going to lose the sale. Okay. So in other words, you want to display some sort of empathy about the client's situations. If you're older and if you have health issues, it's nice to have somebody listen to you complain about them or at least share them with. Okay. It's just normal. You should ask them, how's the diabetes going for you? Are you managing it well? My mom's got it, right? Like this is actually where rapport building we used to do in the beginning actually occurs when you're talking about their health. Great opportunity, not just to rapport build, but to show competence. Like when you start talking about the medications, is this what you take metformin for? Is your diabetes? Yeah, they'll feel like you know what you're talking about because you do, and that builds trust along with rapport. Okay, so you want to go through those list of questions, and we'll talk about what those are in a second, and build rapport there. Show compassion sincerely. We need rapport here. Ask their height and weight, any tobacco usage or smoke tobacco. And then a reminder to input gender. Don't forget, if you're talking to male, put male quote in, not female, because the price will be a lot less expensive. Whoops. Okay. So what we do here in this section here is one of the things we attempt to do is, and this is kind of a call center dig agency thing, but this is actually a good conversation about not just writing business, but writing a specific type of business. In a perfect world, all we would write as agents is level business, first day full coverage. Here's why. Guaranteed issue business, and to some extent, any modified business that's not first day 100% natural death coverage, it just doesn't last as long and the business doesn't stay on the books as well. Case study. You can look at our business, quality of business, which of carriers with predominantly level business, and then compare them to carriers that have guaranteed issue business. And the guaranteed issue business, it lapses like crazy. Well, not crazy, but a lot more lapses than I would like. And it's like that with pretty much everybody. I remember hearing this years ago, where agents that were a tenured, experienced, very good, just would not write guaranteed issue because of the quality of business. And so what we do at the dig agents, the reason I'm mentioning all this is that for our top producers, one of the things we encourage them to do is to not write guaranteed issue business, to instead pass that along to somebody else to write. Because the guys at the top typically make a higher commission level, and we just don't pay a lot of money on guaranteed issue. And I would rather have them spending their time writing business that's first day full coverage, because it's going to pay them and me more, and it's going to be a better piece of business. So we want to filter that stuff out for their benefit, because I don't want them spending all day writing, frankly, business that doesn't pay a lot and likely will lapse on a more regular basis. So this is in this section. We try to determine if they're guaranteed issue. Okay. These are the knockout questions that make them GI. Are they a citizen? Get off the phone if they're not, or if they don't have a social. This question here about hospice, wheelchair use, any cancer, currently, activities, daily living, health. It's a full decline with American Amicable. Ask the next question. If this one, it can be answered yes, it's GI, just cut to the chase and pitch them GI, or hang up and say, hey, somebody will follow up with you. And those are congestive heart failure, Alzheimer's, dementia, Lou Gehrig's, liver failure, etc. And then same thing down here with AIDS, HIV. So that is, we're going to send them for us the seek a guaranteed issue in those cases. If everything's good here, then we'll continue to ask them about these questions. And I'll just save some time in not mentioning them, but essentially the idea here is to get return of premium with American Amicable. Might be guaranteed issue depending on the circumstances, but return of premium is depending on the age, a 2-year or a 3-year waiting period with American Amicable. It's more expensive than guaranteed issue, but it pays more. And the agents are incentivized to write return of premium financially with a better commission than GI, because the persistency is a little bit better here, and it's better for everybody. We can pay the agent more, and the agent makes more. We can make more too. And then there's graded as well. Again, what we're trying to do here, guys, is as much as possible strategically for us is, when it makes sense, write as much with American Amicable as we can. Okay. Let me pause here for questions. Many people don't know their checking account and or access to a checkbook. Yeah, let me cover a couple of things here. So how do you get a checking number? And if you guys have some tips too, throw them in the chat. How do you get a checking account number or routing number if the client doesn't know them or have access to their checkbook? So a couple of tips here that work. First of all, the routing number is public information. If you have their if you have their bank name and which state the bank was opened in, you can put it into Google and put in routing number for Bank of America, Tennessee, and you're going to get it. So you got the routing number. Now, the bank account, there's a couple of different ways to get it. Most statements, if they get a paper statement or they can view one online using their phone, will have on the statement the actual bank account number. Okay, so that's one way. Second, and this is less successful, you can call up the bank, and some of them will give you the bank number. A lot of them won't. So, and then those are the main ways we use. But guys, if you have any other tips or tricks out there that work, please throw them in the chat. But those are kind of the things that we're looking for if they don't have their checkbook readily available. Okay. Duke says, please reiterate the Social Security pay option and NOIT up to Social Security. You have to explain to me what that means. What percentage of GI would you say is pretty standard to charge back? I think our first year persistency with telesales was probably 65%. Not proud of that number, but it is what it is. It is definitely going to be lower than what you'll find in other level policies, which level should be, it's going to depend 75%, 80%. That's kind of where I would want you to be as an agent. But it's definitely going to be a notch or two lower. How would you pass those leads along to Colin? So we'll label them like GI callback. There's a label in the CRM. And so the system knows to put those leads back into the hopper for the agents to call. I don't think we live transfer yet. That's something to look into if an agent's available. It's not necessarily a bad idea. But we might send them back to the system to ring the phone, transfer them. I don't know. But I know that they're put back in the system at least to call back if that's the case. And the nice thing with new agents is it gives, even though it pays less, it gives the new agent an opportunity to pitch and to talk to somebody that's been somewhat pre-qualified and get a sale on the books and kind of go through the motions and get going. Does Dig use bettercheck.com? No, we don't do a check account validation service. American Amicable, I believe, has one. We've looked at them, but they're all like ridiculously expensive. So the idea behind a check account service is to validate that the account actually exists. And that way you save time by not submitting an app. It might also, some of these services also grade the quality of the client. Like, is this a checking account that is constantly negative? Is it negative right now? Again, some services do this stuff already. But with that said, my take on it, though, is if they're going to lie about their bank account, they're going to lie. That's one reason you use that. But there's also other reasons, too. But yeah, other than what AMM has, we don't use. Do you have the option of taking GI sales as earned? Not with us. We just pay the advance amount. It's just kind of built in. Yeah. But you can if you're a direct agent to a company or another agency. That's fine. With online banking, my credit union has an option to show account number and route. Yeah. Sometimes they'll just show it to you, right? Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Other questions that we ask here: does your family have a plan to negotiate to reduce the price? This is kind of emphasizing the funeral concierge program. Suboxone or Narcan use over the past 2 years. So this is something that pops up a lot, guys. A lot of people have drug problems. Either they may just be drug addicts, or they can be totally fine and were prescribed narcotics to deal with pain and surgeries. That happens a lot in our niche. And so, the drug overdoses are so bad that doctors preemptively subscribe Narcan. Okay. And Narcan is an OD stopper. It stops an overdose, right? It saves people's lives. And then Suboxone is a drug that, what is Suboxone? I think it is a drug that you take if you're an addict and it helps you stop. If you guys correct me if I'm wrong. But the point is, this is so commonly prescribed that it is a knockout with some companies. And you just need to be prepared to explain this if this is the case. Ask prescriptions from memory if they are traveling. Otherwise, get a list of bottles, but do not spend too much time on this if it's going to lose call. Again, we talked about that earlier. Okay. Naltrexone for alcohol. I think that's like Suboxone, Greg. Same concept, but yeah, Suboxone can be used for either or. Okay. Now we go down to the shopping price range. Okay. So let's go through the script and then I'll talk about the mentality behind it. If we know the amount, skip to production value. So somebody says, I just want a $10,000 policy to bury me and give my wife money when I die. We can skip this section. But if they haven't talked about the amount that they want, then you do this section. So here's how it sounds. Okay, this sounds really good so far. So Mary, everyone I work for is on a fixed income. So the goal is to find something that you can qualify for and also afford, right? They have the program sorted in different price ranges. So I need you to tell me what range to start shopping in. Oh, wow. I imagine you don't want this crazy policy at $200 a month. Let's skip that. Okay. So what's going on here? So first of all, as we'll get into here, we like to do what's called selling the premium. So there's two ways to sell insurance. You can sell the face amount, which is like, I can get you this $10,000, $15,000, or $20,000 policy, no matter the price, or don't forget the price. We can get you the amount that you want. Or you can sell it like, what's your budget? And then I'll take that budget and then we'll get the most that we can afford. I prefer the second way, selling the premium, and otherwise getting the budget, for a couple of different reasons. First of all, it's how people buy, especially in our category. We're working with low-income people, and they live by their budget or what they think their budget is. And they'll take what they can get as long as they can afford it. So if I start off by talking about what budget is affordable to them, I win their rapport that much more when I say some preemptive stuff like, hey, everyone I work with is on a fixed income. The goal is to find something you qualify for and can afford. They like hearing that. That builds their trust and endears them to me more, right? And then also the unique thing you can do is when you set this up correctly, you can also start high, as we'll see in a moment, to try to get the big premiums when the client can afford them, but then also work lower when they can't, okay? Now, one of the things we've learned from doing telesales, we used to teach this in face-to-face all the time. It definitely works. But with telesales, people can hang the phone up. It's much easier to hang up on somebody when they offend you than it is to throw a dude or a woman out the door, like physically grab and throw them, right? So you can get away with some stuff in person that you can't over the phone. And one of the things that we found is a straight high premium pitch, to some extent, to a minor enough extent to change it, would cause some people to be offended enough to hang up, and they would just shut down and not listen. Okay. So what we did to deal with this is to have two different scripts depending on their professed price sensitivity. So, and then we also added in what's called a price anchor. So this is good. I learned this from an agent a couple of years ago that worked with us. And what he liked to do is before he sold the premium, he would say, hey, we're going to look at some options, but let's not look at this one. I just pulled something up. It's like $400 a month. That's crazy, right? Yeah. What it does is it shows, first of all, you're working for them not to get the overexpensive ones. It sounds like you're setting the table of helping them. And uniquely what it does is it sets the table for what actually is expensive, okay? So in other words, if I start off by saying, hey, you don't want this crazy policy at $200 a month, it makes 100 to 150 sound a lot better. Versus if I didn't say 200 a month is crazy, and if I just started at 100, 150, they may be thinking relatively that's high. So it takes some of the sting off of asking for a high premium by showing them a price that's anchored a lot higher, because there's a relative difference. Does that make sense, guys? So I like using this. We use this all the time because it makes the premium we actually ask for a lot more reasonable sounding than if we didn't ask it. Okay. Now, if they're price sensitive, like, hey, I'm broke, I'm on a fixed income, I don't want to spend a lot of money, we're not going to ask for a large premium amount. What we do instead is say, this is the price sensitive script. I know you had some price concerns already, and this next question is just so I know where I should start shopping for you. So should I start shopping in the range between $80 to $100 a month? And then if they don't say yes with 100% certainty, we then back it down to 60 to 80, 40 to 60 until they buy. Okay, until they, I mean, 20 bucks a month, I don't care. If they have an express sensitivity, then we say the following on the left here. Now, this is just so I know where to start shopping policies for you. So should I start shopping in the range between 100 to 150 a month? So a little bit higher there, and then lower and lower and lower. Okay. Now, what is this doing here? Again, it's allowing us to get the big premiums when we can without losing rapport and having the client hang up. And then when we can't, we just pivot down until we find a premium we can. We're at my agency, we're big on activity, and we just want to help people get policies. I don't care what size deals my agents write, as long as they try for the big ones and then pivot down if it doesn't make sense. We never rebuttal like, you really can't afford $150 a month. What do you don't care about your family? Like, we never do any of that. When somebody says, no, I can't do that, or even if they say, I don't think I can, the proper response is, hey, no problem. We definitely don't want this to be too expensive. What if I could find somebody or something in the next range down, 80 to 100, 60, whatever it is. That continues to keep the rapport that we've built and the trust that we've built. And we know, as people in the final expense business, our clients are not wealthy. So we want to make it affordable. The policy that stays is the policy that pays you, pays the client when they die, right? So I think it's incumbent and behooves you to think in this manner to make sure that the client gets something that's affordable. Now, what if, and I'll ask you a question, guys, what if your client says $100 a month? Yeah, I think I can afford that. Is that something that is that a yes, or is that a no? What is the proper reaction to that? This is also very important. Tell me what you think. So their answer is, yes, I think I can afford that. What is your response to that? Do you accept them at their word or not? And why? So let's pull the questions up. Josh says that's a buying signal. Yeah, it's a signal, but is it confirmation? Okay, Skip. Hey, Carl. He's double checking. You sure? Grant says, I'd ask if the next price down would be more uncomfortable. Rich says it's an unsure signal. Cass is like, nope. They actually can't and are embarrassed to tell you. Yeah, that's a good point. Daniel says, if it's not a certain yes, move the amount down. Josh, more so testing waters. We want to be sure, 100% Julian. Greg says, would you be absolutely comfortable with that amount? Yeah. So my advice to you guys is the only yes is a 100% positive yes. If it is a 95% yes, that is a 100% no. In other words, if I don't hear, yes, I can afford that, then I don't take that price that I quoted at them. And again, in another way, if they say, yeah, I think I can, I say, hey, that sounds good. But when I hear people say, I think I can, that almost always means it's just a little expensive. Why don't we do this? What if we can find something that's the same or similar, but say it was $60 to $80 a month? Would that fit your budget? And likely what you're going to hear is like, oh yeah, that definitely works. And that's 100% yes, right? Does that make sense? So what we're doing here, and this is what my dad said. My dad had a chemical company, B2B sales. He sold it to Ecolab, retired at 49. And he said, sales is about overcoming objections. Okay? That's all sales is. I take it a step further. I want to overcome objections before the client even thinks about an objection. So one of the things we want to do, what's the biggest objection to buying. It's too expensive, or I don't want to spend that much. So what have I done here? I've taken away any room, even a 5% objection chance, by locking in on a price they have 100% confidence in that they can afford. Don't you think that's going to take me across the line and close this deal a lot more likely than not? Than if I just took something with some hesitation. So that's why I'm absolutely convinced that the only answer is a 100% positive yes. And here's the thing, guys. You can always, at the close, like let's say you showed them a 60 and 80, you can always show them 100. You can always show them that thing that they were kind of on the fence about because maybe they're that much more sold in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So it's not like we're losing the sale that they could, losing a bigger sale. We're gaining a sale where we wouldn't have got it. Because many times when agents don't do this, invariably what happens is the client says, I need to think about it. I'm not sure about this. They're embarrassed about admitting they're broke and they don't want to spend that much. And they lose the deal. So I want you guys to get the budget 100% confirmed. It just makes life easier. And you can still show them a higher price, but you want them locked in on a budget they say yes to because you're overcoming that objection. Okay. All right. Awesome. So far, so good, guys. This good knowledge. Feel like you're getting something out of this? Hope so. Good. All right. Where are we at here? All right. I don't want to put a smiley face there. Okay. All right. Okay. Continuing on. So we get a budget out of them. We find out the coverage amount. So how much coverage are you looking to get? And then we go ask them to get something to write down the price quotes. There's a question here I wanted to get to. I didn't mean to skip over. Yeah, price anchoring is a key concept for sure. This was something up here. There it is. Brian had a good question. Can you talk about the client's misaligned expectations based on misleading national ads? For just $1 a month, you can get $50,000 in valuable life insurance, right? Yeah. Or for just $10 a month, you can get $500,000 in coverage. You could just call it a scam. Come on. You know how it is these days. They all know it's a scam. There's always a catch, isn't there? That's what I would tell them. Like, the catch is you got to be 40. You got to be able to run a marathon, not have an ounce of fat on you, and obviously nobody does, except a few people in life. What we're talking about today is what actually you can qualify for, which the truth is, and I like saying something along these lines, like, what's $1 million policy to you if it's $10,000 a month or your health doesn't even qualify for it? How much coverage is that really? It's zero. So it's a scam. It's not real like what I can do for you. So you have to phrase it in that kind of, it's a scam, it's BS, and you know it. They all know it. And it's like, come on. I mean, I'd be the first person to offer that to you if I could. The reality is it doesn't exist. And they're going to either believe you or not at some point, Brian. And that's kind of where that competence and confidence thing comes in, because they're going to be reading you and assessing, are you somebody who sounds like you know what you're talking about? Like, it's all just kind of this intuitive thing, and we try to manufacture it with the scripting, right? But they're either going to believe you or not up to this point, based off of their vibes they're getting from you. And there's not a lot you can do about it if they just don't believe you. At some level, you can't fix stupid, like we say down here in Tennessee. Price quotes and ads for a healthy 50-year-old getting $10,000 coverage. Yeah. Okay. So at this point, we start talking about the differences in the products out there. This is the value building part of the conversation, guys. We want them to know what makes our product different from the competition. So I'll go through this script here, but this positions us as the expert, builds trust, gets them to hand their money over to us that much easier because they believe in what we sell as being special. So David, okay, here's the price. And again, we're saying it here. Here's the price. Why are we saying that? Because they want to hear that. All right, we got the price ready for you, but I want to make sure we know what options are out there and we got the right one for you. But we say that price thing because people want to get to that. That's kind of like the hook and the bait to reel them in, okay? I just want to make sure that we choose the right product for you. Do you know the difference between term life and whole life? I'm just going to see if that's a little better. Yeah. Term terminates And then whole life is for your whole life. So your coverage never cancels and monthly payment never goes up with this product. Is that what you're looking to get? They're usually like, yeah, I don't want that term crap. David, do you know what happens? Do you happen to know what the difference between simple whole life insurance is and a full funeral plan? First off, there's no additional charge but for the full funeral plan. And this is referencing the funeral concierge program. So don't worry about that. Okay, yep, that makes sense. That's what they're going to be saying. Our full funeral plan has full life insurance and has first day, no 2-year wait, immediate coverage for the negotiate. And again, we've determined this already. We've underwritten all this. So we're not just saying this. Notice we already did there already the health information earlier on to say what we're saying here. Okay. Just want to point that out. No 2-year wait, immediate coverage for the negotiation service that saves your family up to 40% off the funeral costs, as well as paying out the insurance. Does that make sense? Yep. It's both insurance and a post-death negotiation service to save your family the money. Yep, and they'll continue to buy in. In fact, one of the families our agency worked with was getting ready to arrange her mom's funeral, and it was quoted for $18,000. But with our funeral negotiation services, everything costed about $10,000, not $18,000. Wow, that makes sense. Great. So they saved $8,000, and that service is effective for your family from day one. Do you understand, David, how our service is going to help your family do, or do you have any questions about it? I'm happy to explain further. So again, we're pitching because we do this with the funeral concierge program. We're adding this into the pitch. And again, it does help. You don't have to sell this, guys. Like, you can just do the old way that we used to do it. You'll see it on the script that's on Insurance Sales Success. You can just sell. It's first day full coverage. Rates never go up, blah, 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 blah. The stuff that we used to do. But again, because we are personally bought into the concierge approach, that's why we're doing this now. Insurance toolkits will tell you if it is a 2-year wait or not. Yeah. I think if you run it, it'll just show it as guaranteed issue. And that's how you know it's a 2-year wait. So yes, what we have for you is way better than just simple life insurance. You get whole life insurance, and you get us negotiating for your family to make sure that they get the best price possible for the funeral. Do you see how this benefits them even more than a stripped down kind of bare bones life insurance policy? Again, positioning to convince them what we do is special to encourage them to buy from us. It says to make sure they aren't yesing you. Hold on. Yes. I'm sorry. If you believe the info is going in one ear out the other, yeah, that's correct. Does this make sense to you? I misread that. If they're just rushing you, slow down and say, oh, does this make sense? Do you have any questions? How does this sound? Right? To get back to asking questions to control. So I apologize, Frank. Okay. And then this is where we talk about the level coverage, the American amicable coverage, kind of a reiteration of above, how guaranteed issue works. Okay. You guys can read through that script. I'll just save a little time. But this goes into the description. And we're kind of selling, the main thing here is to sell the GI. So after I do this application for you, you should qualify for one of our most popular plans. If you die in the first 2 years, your family gets 10% interest on the money you paid out, just like the best. It's like having the best savings account you ever had, but it's a life insurance policy. It's really a gift from God. Insurance is available because you have AIDS, congestive heart failure, you're taking oxygen, and you're bedridden. So the point is, with the GI, that's kind of the thing that a lot of people struggle with, is like selling that there's a 2-year wait. If you are selling guaranteed issue, it's probably because they can't qualify for anything else. Like, they're lucky to get it. That's kind of what we're trying to sell in this. And then what we're telling them is, like, if they did die in the next 2 years, which nobody thinks they're going to, by the way, even people who are like in really bad shape, all you got to do is live 2 years. And if you die within those 2 years, your family's going to get every dollar you paid in plus an additional 10%. It's like a savings account. It's better than a savings account. You're not going to get 10% off that. So this is us selling GI, okay, to try to rationalize it for them. The AMAM return of premium is the same concept here. You can read that, but we also implement that funeral concierge discussion as well. Okay. Now, any questions so far? So we're pitching the product. We're telling them what we can qualify them for. We're giving them a positioning statement so they know where we stand and have a better idea of how things work. Any questions so far? Yeah, what is your differentiation for a price shopper? I mean, so price shopping is contingent upon their health, right? So if someone is price shopping us and they're in this position of deciding if they're going to buy from us or not based off of the price, I mean, we're going to try to pitch the best price. We may have an agent pivot if platinum's too expensive, let's say, or they just can't afford it, or they've already got coverage. We may pivot to Mutual of Omaha or possibly Trinity Family Benefit. So that's why we have those carriers around. We'll talk about that in a little while. But the idea behind that is if they're insistent on just saving money or getting the best bang for the buck, we have those in our back pocket. Yeah, so that's an objection. We'll get to that in the end. I think there's let me shop it some more. That really, if they say that, I would say, hey, that's what we do. I'd like, and you've already addressed that. I already shop the major carriers anyway, and this is our best option for you. I could run a quote for Mutual of Omaha. It may be a little less expensive, but you don't get the funeral concierge. Would you like to see that? It's a way to keep them on the phone and see. But you are the price shopper, in other words, is what you should say if you have the ability to shop around and find a good deal. Okay. Now, there are circumstances where people you got to read between the lines sometimes. There are circumstances where people they can just tell you they're not bought in. They're a little paranoid. And so there's a couple of things that we recommend that you do. If you have a website where you can display yourself, your licensing, etc., then make sure that you can share that with them. Okay. Another cool thing to use is Crankwheel. Anybody know what Crankwheel is? So Crankwheel is a one-way facing video app. And what it allows you to do is send your client or anybody a link. When they click on it, they will see you. So they click on the link on their phone, it brings them to a Crankwheel site, and it's sharing your camera on your phone. And you can basically say, hey, it's me. This is really Dave Duford. I'm a real person. I'm not some scam artist across the country or in another part of the world. It's nice to meet you. This is my cat, my dog, my family. And yeah, it's way easier than Zoom. Zoom requires, especially with old people, like getting an old person on Zoom is a monumental task. That's futile for the most part. Whereas if you can get them to just click on a link, everybody clicks on a link, most people, in a text, and then see you, it dispels a lot of this concern that you're a real person. Okay. Now, I don't know about that. I don't know much beyond it. I've never really personally used it, Greg, so I don't know. I just know that enough to be dangerous. It just helps you see who you're dealing with. They probably have some kind of, I think you're thinking like a hiding the background, right? Where it's like blurred, like in Zoom. I don't know. That's a good question. I would think that would be something on there. One thing I talked to Tim. Tim's our COO of the company, and he's responsible for a lot of the scripting that you see here. One of the things he wanted to make sure that you guys understand is that the solution, Crankwheel, is something that, and even the website sharing, it's not used a lot. If you aren't doing a good job, you showing yourself on camera or a website is not necessarily going to be the solution to getting the sale. Okay. It's when you do the script and when you sound like you know what you're talking about and the client's a little paranoid that this stuff works. When you're otherwise doing what you should do, this stuff works. What I don't want you to think is the solution to selling final expense successfully is doing a Crankwheel for every call. It is not. There are some people who only do this a couple times a year. They don't need to, okay? Because fundamentally, they're good at the script, they're great at the script, and they're great sounding, rehearsing, and doing the script. That's responsible for 95% of your success, not Crankwheel or a website, okay? So don't let this become what we call in the business avoidance behavior. Sales avoidance behavior. Like it's work, it's cool, but you're avoiding the thing that actually makes you money, which is picking up the phone and talking to people. Okay. And then getting better at that. Make sense? Hope so. All right. So now it's at this point, we actually notice we haven't even asked the client, why do they want to get coverage? We may have picked up some stuff along the way inadvertently, but we haven't actually talked about the why. Again, this is something that has changed in our script. If you're aware of my script and have done this for a number of years, we used to ask the why question early on. What were your thoughts and concerns when you requested this information, right? What we found, though, again, coming back to that original point, is your clients are impatient. They don't have time. They will hang up on you. And so you have to keep them on the phone and keep them moving. And we found that asking the why, not in the beginning, but near the end of the call, before you present the price quote, is the best way to connect the urgency and emotionality of buying final expense with buying it today. Does it make sense? So we moved the why section from the top of the presentation script to the bottom for this reason. So here's what we say. So perfect. You got that pen and paper. Again, we're saying we're about ready to give you the price. We're about ready to give you the price. Be ready. Okay, so while we're doing that, can you describe for me what your thoughts, concerns were that caused you to want to get this amount of coverage? Who are you trying to protect it with? And what's the name of the beneficiary? We ask the beneficiary name because it personalizes the presentation. If I say, hey, your beneficiary is going to get $10,000 in valuable coverage, it doesn't sound as good and as persuasive as saying, Mary, your daughter, Sally, is never going to have to worry. She will have peace of mind with this $10,000 plan you're about to get her. That sounds way better. Okay. So pick up that beneficiary information and utilize it. Now, sometimes, again, decision tree based off of the response. Sometimes our clients say, oh, you know, I don't really have any, there's no reason. I was just curious to see what was out there. That's BS. Everybody's got a reason why. They're not talking to you on the phone because they have no reason. Nobody willingly, excuse me, cat hair, submits their information online knowing they're going to talk to a person. They all do, without having a good reason to justify and rationalize the behavior. So when somebody says, oh, there's no reason, I'm just checking around, some like milquetoast answer, the first attempt, you say, oh, I understand that, David. And what's happened in your life that has made you decide now is the time to seriously look at getting a plan to put in place? So we hold them to that. We're like, you don't get out this easy without an explanation. Why do you want to do this? Why now? Emphasis now, today. Why are you buying today for me? In other words, right? We want to know, why do we care? Because when we understand the motivation of the prospect, we are that much closer and more likely to get them to buy. Okay. If they'd say, well, I don't really know, you know, they give you some follow-up milquetoast answer. You try one more time. And then if you don't get this, you just move on. We used to just shut down the call in person if we couldn't get a why out of them. But at this point, because at the speed at which these calls, we're done with, well, we're closing them and getting commitment verbally 10 to 15 minutes in. Okay. This is a short pitch. So we'll pitch everybody. They don't have to tell us the why. At some level, we know they have a why, and we can still pitch them without it. It's not best case scenario, but we'll do it anyway. That's one of the things that's changed. So the last thing we'll say here, if they just don't have a reason and they reemphasize they don't, we'll say usually what we found, Wendy, is usually one of three reasons. Either someone's passed recently, or you or someone else has had a recent health scare, or someone's had an accident. Which one is it for you? And we may follow up with a few questions here to kind of reemphasize the point, all right? So if you got a reason for the client, you're going to say, so Wendy, if you do not get a policy, who's going to get stuck with this bill? Is it going to be your beneficiary? And if you don't have it, that's what you ask us. Who's the beneficiary? Is that what you want? How on earth is Wendy going to even pay for it if you don't get a policy? So this is this whole urgency building. If they don't know, if they say, I don't know, I don't really know, your response is, do you think they have to get a loan to pay for it? Well, maybe they could, but wait, what's their credit score? They'd have to get a great credit to get a loan in 24 hours to pay for a funeral. Think about it. How would you feel if they had to pay $500 a month in a loan payment over their heads for the next 10 years? So the idea here is just to picture, like build the image of what it's like to not take care of this. If they say, yeah, they can pay it, my daughter's married to a doctor, there's no problems. Your response is, well, that's great to know, but do you really want your daughter paying out of pocket to bury you and all that money it's going to require? How would that make you feel if they had to fork over all that money? And what are the steps you need to do to get this problem taken care of, Wendy? So the idea behind here is to kind of guilt trip them. Do you really want your daughter to be responsible for something you should be responsible for? Think about it. Really? What if their circumstances change? What if he dies? Or what if she gets divorced? Things change. Let's be real. And then let's see here. How would you feel if your beneficiary had to struggle to pay your funeral costs because you put this decision off again? It's really important to say you put this decision off again because they all have. Our clients are world-class procrastinators, ladies and gentlemen. I swear you're not the first person to pitch them on life insurance. And if you don't do the job, you're not going to be the last either. Well, you might be, but they'll probably be pitched again. So that's why we're saying this, to put this decision off again. Do you think that would benefit? They would benefit if they had our people negotiating and planning the funeral for them? Wendy, you need to make a decision to change something here. This is a problem we can fix. So again, we're reemphasizing the fact that we can help them and we can take care of this. Okay. And at this point, we summarize everything we've heard. So Mrs. Prospect, let me tell you, make sure I understand everything. What you're looking for is a plan to pay for your funeral expenses so Wendy doesn't have to come out of pocket. You want her to have peace of mind, and you want to be sure that this burden is not going to be left to her. Is that why you need to get this done today? Yes. So this summary, it's the perfect segue into closing, giving the price, etc. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? So we're going down the funnel, qualifying the client health-wise, keeping them on the phone, building a little rapport through health questions if we can, explaining our product, building the emotional rationale to buy, and we're now getting to the point where it's time to take their money. It's time to close. Okay? So here's how that works. At this point, stop, listen to them. Are they even ready to close, or do you need them to talk about themselves more? People do not buy from you unless you've got them to trust you and like you by asking them questions about themselves, not your stories, exactly. If they seem disconnected from you, then insert some small talk here and there about the topics or interests they love. You should be picking up some stuff along the way and asking questions about that to show that you care, to show that you're interested. If you're not doing this and you're just going through this stuff mechanically, they just won't care. And to the extent they care will be the extent that you'd care. Okay. So assuming you've done a good job of, and they're engaged or they're going back and forth, you're having a conversation with the client, it's time to close. Scripting wise, it sounds something like this. I got the price here for you now. Keep in mind any of the pricing options is okay to choose. Higher or lower is totally fine. We say this to, again, dismantle any concerns that we're going to try to charge them too high. All we have to do from here is submit your application insurance company to make sure you actually get an approval so you can take care of Mary. You can choose whichever amount of coverage you want. You're the one in control here. So here we go. You ready for me to tell you the prices? Now, your first option, this one's kind of high, but it's there for you and Mary. I don't really recommend it because you're on a budget, but it's create a bid for $149 and toolkits are a similar price and tell them the face amount. So this is the one. So I like closing with an option that's outside of their budget. It's somewhat of a price, goes back to that price anchor quote, but it also shows here's what expensive looks like. Okay. And so your clients will sometimes take that. So for me, what I would do is if they said, I can afford 100 to 125 a month, I would show the 149 as the first option. Because it sets up all this. Like, I don't really recommend it, but it's here. We want to make sure it's affordable. And it also positions what you're about to price out lower as looking better. Okay. You got that? Does that make sense? Great. Not my first choice for you to do the budget. If you were my mom, I'd say skip that one. By the way, this is always like a really good rebuttal. If you're my mom or if you're my dad, if you're in the same age group, if you're my brother, if you're my wife, like that shows that, I'm treating you like family, right? So that's always a good thing to put in there. Okay, the next option is way more affordable. You ready for it? Okay, second option is the most common option. And remember, it has the Everest program, first day full coverage, etc. So it has all that for Mary. So she'll be taken care of. This is for X amount of coverage, and it's $99, near $100. So pretty good. So you got that written down. Okay. This is the most popular option. Most people go for this one. And it's the one I would do for you if I were you. Lastly, there's no shame in this. It's the super budget option, very affordable and should do your family pretty good. And then put them in their budget at this point. So at this point, if they said 80 to 100, this would be for 80, okay? Or 75 or whatever. It's not bad if you have to do it. It's way better to have something than nothing, right? Did you write this little one down? Okay, good. So you have all three options now. My job is simply just to submit the application. It's really easy, super safe, and see if you can get approval. So which one do you want to get approval for? Is it option 1, 2, or 3? Now, I'd go for 2, but it's up to you, whichever plan works for Mary, so you have peace of mind. And then you wait for the decision. If they have questions, answer them simply and sufficiently, and then we'll talk about objections and handling, okay? And then at this point, so you're good with picking that one if there's kind of a back and forth on what option to go with. Which one do you want to get approval for? And then that confirms if they're actually buying into it and if they're fully persuaded. If they buy, so this is the verbal buying option, that's great. I'm already in the company website doing the application for you. Please spell your last name. This will literally just take a handful of minutes. And get the rest of the information to the app and prepare for objections. So what we're trying to do is get into the application, get the process started, and get things rolling. Okay? Any questions so far? We're now about to move into the most common objections and how to overcome them. Oh, you guys, just a second here. Let's jump into these objections. So remember, with objection rebuttals, I can't stress it enough. If you sound good on the phone, you're competent, confident, all that stuff, you probably won't hear a lot of these. If you don't sound good on the phone and you get objections, you can go through these. You'll catch some of them, a minority, but you still will lose a lot because you just don't sound like you know what you're talking about. So don't have this belief that objection rebuttals are the source of success in this business. It's not. The source of success is following the rest of the script and having an aura and a presence on the phone. How would you follow up with a price shopper who sent me away after providing a quote? Original appointment was in person. Now I need to do a phone follow-up. I bet you it wasn't price, because you could have lowered the price. You just could have lowered them a face. Did you try that? Oh, so I take price objections. You can't afford it. So let's drop the price. If that doesn't work, then I would be like, well, it sounds like there's something else here. It's not the price. We can find something that's affordable. I already told you the price. I shop these companies. What's really the problem here? Why do you not want to do this? And they may not even tell you. And this is kind of the problem with objections. They won't tell you they think you're an asshole or they don't like you. Not to be blunt. I'm sorry, Mark. And you're probably not an ass. But, they think this stuff, but they don't tell you. They're not going to tell you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. It's kind of like what one of our attendees said earlier. They're embarrassed, or nobody's going to say what they really think. So you're left thinking, well, geez, if I had that low price leader, would have got. Probably not. Probably not. There's probably something you didn't do, or they're the type of person that aren't going to do it, or you just didn't connect with them. Those are probably more of the reasons than what objection rebuttal, like having a million of them. Objection rebuttal is overrated. Okay. What do you think about asking for their driver's license number? The idea being that they don't have it handy, but if they get up to get it, they are buying. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, asking, spelling their last name, it's a way to get into the application. It's just like the driver's license number. Okay, objections. Let's go over some objections. Okay, just like every company. Oh, when you ask for their social number, guys, get rid of the term social security number. That brings up, when you say, hey, can I have your social security number? They immediately think, oh, this is some guy in India or somewhere else that's about to rip me off and steal my information, right? Don't even say social security number. It's social number. Your soc. I've heard that too. Social number. Okay. So they're like, I ain't giving you my number. Or let me preempt it. Just like every company, they do a medical and prescription background check using your social number. So go ahead and hit me with your social number. Do not say social security number. Well, we're not at the objections yet, but we're about to be. Okay, we'll talk about it in a second. The other thing that we want to do, this is really important. We just discovered this within the last year, 6 months. I was reviewing content from Peter Roberts, who's also really good. And one of the things that struck me as odd that I always taught not to do because it created objections was to actually get payment same day. In other words, when you're on the phone with the client, you want them to pay today, if at all possible. It's not possible with everybody. It's possible close to half the time. But what this does is if you can draft them today at the time of approval, your quality of business will be better. It'll stick better because they've already committed financially. It's too late to change. I mean, there's a grace period. They can ask for a refund, but mentally people are bought in when the money exchanges hands. So as much as possible, get that money, get that first premium up front. That will boost your quality of business immediately. When it's time to collect the banking information, what you want to do is ask, so how will you be paying for that today? Just need the bank numbers to get that set up for you. And if they say they can't do it or have some kind of pushback, go ahead and say, oh yeah, it's totally fine. Let's just set up the payment out to your next Social Security payment date. That's completely fine. I got you. But otherwise, you want to ask, let's get you going today. And just assume the sale that you're going to draft it today. All right. Okay, we'll skip that. That's for something other than final expense. Okay, so objection handle. Let's talk about the objections. First is, I need to think about it. Probably the most common. Nobody ever has to think about this stuff, guys, by the way. By the way, most objections are lies. It's BS. It's stalling tactics because they don't want to commit or they just don't like you and they don't want to buy from you because they don't trust you and they'll never admit it, right? But we have to go through the emotions or the motions of going through these objections because sometimes you can unearth it and they'll settle and then close. But let's go through it. If they say I need to think about it, it's thank you for telling me that, David. Yeah, so taking time to think is a smart move. And when you said you need to think about it, how do you mean? So again, this gives them the opportunity, if it's a substantive objection, to formalize what their concerns are. If there's no other issues, then you're going to say, okay, no problem, got it. Your comfort with the decision you're making right now is what matters most. Besides the price, anything else on your mind? Usually it's just one thing if they'll even tell you. And the response to that is, yeah, that's perfectly fine. So let me break it down a bit more for you now so you're totally clear-minded on everything. Simply put, you don't have to pay anything today, okay? Also, the company cannot cancel your policy unless you want it to. If you want to cancel it, it's super easy, zero hassle guaranteed. Also, it's with American Amicable. Great company, been around since 1920, whatever the date is, A+ ranked company. And this is what you would say based off of the stats of the company. So you know it's a trustworthy company. And while you're thinking, remember, making a choice today has some benefits, like making sure you're even approvable for the coverage, which is what we're all doing, what you're trying to do. Just asking them if they can approve, lining up future payment date. So if you want to keep the policy, you can. If you want to change your policy, you can. And if you want to not even make the first payment, you can just not pay it. So you have nothing to lose and everything in the game by letting me get you this approval, okay? So which option do you want to start out with? Why don't we just start with the easiest one? Or do you want the price to be lower? So what we're trying to do is basically reiterate the benefits of the plan. If they gave me some reasons why they wanted to buy that were based off of like experiences previously, I'd add that in here. Hey, you said this was important to you. You don't want to burden your loved one. Let's just go ahead and see if we can even get you approved. You don't have to pay anything today. You can cancel it. We're going to make it super easy for you. Okay. So do you want to just get started with the cheapest one? You want me to look lower? So we're making it to where there's just no way they can say no. Okay. So that's the first one. Probably the most common one is this, and then talk to kids. So, yeah, David, other than money, is there any other reason you want to start today? Yeah, that is isolating the objection. If there's other objections, which there usually is, and it's always usually one objection, it's they're either going to tell you what it is, or they're never going to tell you, or they're going to tell you a lie. It's hard to tell, but it's typically one issue, and then you just go to town on it and reiterate the importance of the plan and getting it started. The other objection is talk to kids. Hey, that's great, and it's exactly what I want you to do. After all, this is money going to them, but let me make a suggestion. And this is not a creative way to make a sale. The sale is not made until you pay for the policy, and you're certainly not doing that today. Here's my suggestion. Let's get you medically approved so you know you got this. We can schedule the payment out 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever. In that time, you can talk to your kids, talk to your family. You can shop around and you're blue in the face. And only one of three things could possibly happen. One, we'll stay the course. The ball is rolling very slowly. You and your family are good with it. Or two, you can make any changes to the policy before now and then when we pay for it. Or three, God forbid you find something better, give me a call. I'll pull the plug on it. No pushback. But at least you know you got the process started. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So who do you want your beneficiary to be? Okay. So this is like saying, hey, yes, you can think about it, but we need to get you approved so you can see what you actually have and you can share it with your family. We're rationalizing to them why they shouldn't wait. Does that make sense, everybody? I like everything I hear, but I need to have something sent in the mail. This is a trust issue again. You didn't build trust enough with the client. You could argue that's the case up here with the think about it and talk to kids, but this is a little bit more obvious. That's great. That's exactly what I want you to have. And after all, you need to read exactly what you're buying into. But let me make a suggestion. It's not a creative way to make a sale. The sale is not made until you pay for the policy, and you're certainly not doing that today. So here's my suggestion. It's really the same thing as above. Notice the difference. No, there's not really any difference. The whole point is like get the policy in your hands. That's the way that you have anything to actually review. Okay. So I'll just skip this since it's the same thing. I'm not giving you my social security number. Response is, hey, I truly understand your concern about sharing your social number. And I know it's like sharing a secret code, something personal, you know. But here's the thing. The insurance company does need it to check your medical records and make sure everything's correct. And when the time comes, it ensures the money goes directly to your family, not someone else's. I'm simply here to guide you through this process. Plus, it's crucial to lock in your rates now because they can go up at any time. So what's your social number? If they're still concerned, the second rebuttal would be, I understand that sharing a social number is tough for some folks. I want to make sure that process is as easy as possible. It's just a routine and safe thing that everyone does to get a policy. So this is appeal to the masses. Everybody does it, right? Peer pressure. Your feelings do matter, though, and we're here to support you through every step of the way. If you have any other concerns or questions about anything else, please let me know. Otherwise, go ahead. I'm ready for your social. And then the bank account, very similar kind of responses here. I'll just skip them. Again, I can't stress, if they're saying this stuff and giving you pushback, it's probably that you just didn't build enough rapport and trust. It has more to do with the beginning than the end. Objection, my policy is much cheaper. Okay, I need to make sure we're comparing the exact same product. So does your current policy have any accidental? Does it ever cancel, like its term? Does the payment go up? Who's it with? Get the policy if they have it. If not, no big deal. Our goal is to see if the accidental term is expiring. If it is, try to replace it. They should not feel good about it expiring. Or if it's accidental, they should be scared for them. You should be scared for them. If it's straight whole life, you cannot beat it, then get off the phone and quote someone else. This assumes that you can't add more coverage on top of what they want. Okay. I need to get off the phone. Oh, you got to go. No problem. Here, let me just give you the price real quick. You got a pen and paper. Continue with the script and the assumption they agree. So this can kind of take place at different spots, but you just kind of like skip ahead, go to the pricing. Keep going with the script otherwise, though. I have savings, money. I don't need insurance. It's really great that you have money, and I understand it, not thinking you need to insure. It makes perfect sense. Let me tell you, have you ever had someone you know get cancer unexpectedly? Also, the problem is the nursing home. Do you know anyone who's gone to nursing home? I know people have gone into nursing home and they'll drain you and your family's money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars in a few years. All of this is true, by the way. Even if you have Social Security, Medicare, you can drain your money due to cancer treatments very, very quickly, or ending up in a nursing home. And that's the whole point of this insurance, isn't it? We don't know what tomorrow will bring. So how do you spell your beneficiary's name? You go right back into pitching them, okay? The idea behind here is you're buying it because you don't know what's going to happen, and there's no guarantee of what you think the future will bring. If they say, I'm not buying it anything today, and this can happen at any point in the call, just say, hey, I understand it. I got it. No worries. And then just keep going in your script wherever this occurred. Let me see how much more of this. Oh, a lot of objection here. Okay. I'm not buying anything today after you give the price. So they just still won't buy. Responses, I totally understand that, and I agree it's hard to buy on the spot. Mary, do you believe that your family really needs this coverage? And the price, is that comfortable with you? And about me, do you trust me to get this done in the right way and to do the right thing for you and your family? Look, I fully understand that you're a good mom, and this is a good thing to do to take care of your family. We don't even know if you're approved. So let's get you done, get you approved, and you have 30 days to figure everything else out. Even cancel it if you need to. So what's your social? Or whatever information you need. I can't find my information, so this is kind of talks through finding it, looking it up, etc. Tell them you'll be silent, so give them time to look for it, no rush. You can take the card instead. If you need to, it's better to get the banking information. If they say they have enough coverage or it's not enough or they wanted more, response says, I totally understand that, Mrs. Jones. The economy keeps changing, makes things more expensive. I get it. I know you're a good mom and you're really doing this to take care of Mary. Do you feel that Mary would be thankful for this money when the day comes, that they're crying at your funeral? Do you honestly and truly believe she'll need the money? Yeah. Okay. So here's what you need to do. Get what you can afford. Do your best. Anything is everything to your family when they're grieving at your funeral. That's what you need to think about. If you find something better than this, just call me. I'll cancel it without any pushback. I promise I'll make canceling very easy. The reality is you cannot leave them unprotected, right? So let's do something about it. What's your social? Okay. And this is kind of where you can use crank wheeling as well. I don't have time to do the objection, but I'll definitely do it another day. They're not going to do it another day. They'll go into the witness protection program. Your response is, oh, I know there are other companies out there that are slow applications. They'll take 45 minutes. What people don't know is our apps, our carriers are really fast. I mean, it really just takes like 6 minutes. I do that regularly. Always respect your time. So what's your street address? Let's blast through this real quick. Let's get you approved. Okay. See if we can get you approved. You do not have to pay today. Don't worry about that too. Okay. And then I'll skip this section just unless you guys really want me to talk about the cool down. But the cool down is once the application is submitted, it's approved. You reiterate what they bought. You make sure that they're happy with it. And then that is it. And that's the script. That's what we teach. Everything you saw there is exactly what we're doing at the Dig Agency. And it is based off of a constant feedback loop of figuring out what's working, what's not working, ripping out the stuff that reduces sales and adding stuff in, testing things, seeing what helps us get sales and what doesn't, and constantly improving this process.